Okay, I think we're streaming. It's always kind of tricky when you're trying to stream to multiple places at once, and then one of them gives you a warning. I never really know what that means exactly, but all right. So if you're joining me right now, thanks for joining. If you're watching the stream after the fact, then thanks for watching. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using the Derwent Lightfast pencils, and I've been working on this portrait for a little while, and I'm going to go ahead and work on the mouth now. So there's not a real good pink color for the Lightfast set inside the Lightfast set. We do have, what do we have? We have salmon, we've got flesh pink. Hold these up to the camera here. And we've got, there's another one here somewhere. There's a few, but dusky pink is another one. And then we've got oyster, which is a very, very light pink. So you kind of have to make up your own pink, especially when you're wanting something that is, very hot kind of pink, or a pink that is really a red that goes in and out of a highlight, because you're not going to draw lips totally red, are you? If you have any questions or comments, you can type those inside the chat. And the cool thing about this software is I should be able to hear whatever you're saying. Whoops, there we go. Get that camera working right. There we go. So I should be able to hear whatever your comment is. It normally will tell me the audio. It'll give me the audio, text to speech. Okay. So I'm using cherry red right now. It's a really dark red. Usually my methodology for this is I'll go ahead and do a layer everywhere. I used Merlot for a while here on what I was working on the mouth, just getting that grisaille kind of method down, just establishing where all the values are, where the shadows are. But now I'm going back over it and I'm going to add color. And then when you keep building up the layers, then eventually you can create the smooth texture that you want. Kind of like what I've done over here on the eye. If you look at the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid, that's sort of the finished kind of look that I'm going for. And this was really a test to see, what was possible here. I've been pleasantly surprised using the Lightfast pencils by Derwent on Pastelmat. I'm really loving these pencils. There's a couple of things actually happening. I'm loving the pencils, but I'm also loving Pastelmat. I'm falling in love with Pastelmat at the same time. So didn't know that was possible. Falling in love at the same time with both the pencils and the support, the paper that I'm using. It's really nice. Very forgiving paper. You can just keep layering on it. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're almost done a lot of times. And then you can just keep going. So that's been really nice. Okay, this is sort of a tricky part right out here because I've got a little glint of light coming up right here. So I want to make sure that I capture that and I don't put too much color right in there. So I want to take that away just a little bit. Probably shouldn't have grabbed that. Probably should have used the kneaded eraser. When I use that sticky putty, it just obliterates everything normally. The kneaded eraser just sort of softly takes things away. There we go. That's a little bit better. Got a little carried away there. Okay. Add that right in here. And then I will add this cherry red over here on this side that is in the highlight. But I'm going to be careful about it because I don't want a whole lot of it over here. There we go. Okay. And then in this recessed area, I can add a little bit more in there and bring that down just a little bit. I do have quite a bit of highlights in this area, and I'm sort of changing the direction. I'm not really changing the direction of the light, but I'm accentuating the light in this portrait a little bit more with the direction coming from this angle over here. So I'm putting more light over here. So that will affect, there's going to be more light up here, more light on this side of the nose, more light up under here, things like that. I want to accentuate that and to make it appear that there is more light coming there than what there actually is in the reference, just because I think it'll add something to this portrait. That's easy enough to do with the eyes in this frontal view here, and it'll, I think, make a compelling portrait. We'll see, I guess. Okay, so on this side, I have to add a little bit of a line here, even though I typically don't like a line to describe the edge of the mouth. I need it in this case, for at least for a little bit. And I can get rid of it later. Okay, that's probably enough for the moment with the cherry red. All right, so now I can come in here with this Derwent red. Now, this is one of the new pencils out of the 72 set. So the expanded 36 added with the old 36 creates the new set of 72. Okay. Grab this right in here. There we go. You start adding darker colors, then you start to lose some of the value separations that you started out with initially. And if you draw in this manner, if you're drawing like establishing values first, doing this grisaille method, you know what I'm talking about, where it almost feels like, you went really dark and then you started adding some color, and it feels like you've lost those initial values that you were putting down. Well, you really didn't lose it. They just, all those values, the darker ones, got obscured by the color and the values of the color going in there. And so you have to reestablish those. And sometimes what we'll have to do then is we'll have to go darker with, a darker color, that is, a different hue. Like I may need to use blue, a darker blue in the separation of the upper and bottom lip for that edge right in there. Okay. So I can put quite a bit of this in here. The biggest highlight that I'm going to have in the lips is going to be right in this area in the bottom lip right there. So everything else can be quite a bit darker and can be more red than what I'm showing right now. Okay. And then when we add our lighter colors on top of this, of course, it's going to be more pink than what it is right now. It's looking very dark at the moment, and it's not going to look like that by the time we're done. go up just a little bit right in there to that upper lip. We have a little bit of a reflection, you know, always in, well, I shouldn't say always, but often in the upper lip, the edge of the upper lip. And let's see. I want to put some of this red color up here above the lip just a little bit. I want this whole area to look very warm. Okay, and then up here, this needs to be really warm up here. There we go. And right in here. The more I look at that, the more I think that that needs to not be quite as dark as it is. That value kind of got away from me here. So I'm going to remove that and gently step back in there, and I will increase that value, but not with that dark color. Okay, we'll put this color in there. Might make a little more sense. There we go. Yeah, I'm thinking I like that better. All right. So I want to look at where the light areas might be. Okay, so this needs to be darker right in here. And over there. Okay. Sometimes it helps just looking at it, just stopping, reassessing it, and noticing. All right, I think it's fine. So I want to grab my pink colors. And I'll probably grab this heather. It's more of a purplish color. And let's see. So I've got dusky pink, salmon, and I've got oyster, and I have heather. So I'm going to start over here with heather in this darkest area first. I'm going to move it over towards the highlight area over to the right. There we go. And fill in this area down here just a little bit for that bottom area. And then I want to come over here to this darkest spot and put a little bit there and over here. Not a lot, just a little bit. And then I want to bring it in here and work on that edge just a little bit, that separation there between the upper and lower lips. There we go. Okay. Some of that texture we can bring out right now in the lips. I never want to get too carried away with the linear texture of the lips. But I do want to show it just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to lay that one aside a little bit. And I can work on this highlighted area over here. Actually, let's use the brightest one first, which is Oyster. There we go. And I can put more of that oyster color up here, the upper lip. There we go, right over here. I want to push that color. Hey, Brenda, how's it going? Thanks for joining. I want to push that up here just a little bit. Now I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. Okay. Any questions, just shout those out at any time. Okay, do I have, you know what I'm missing? Oh, no, I have it. Salmon, right there. Okay, so I'm going to put salmon right down here just a little bit. Actually, later on, I may put something a little darker right in there. But for now, I think it's fine. So, Brenda, I think you were the one telling me that some of the Pastelmat colors are... Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the salmon, I think, actually looks a lot like a lip color. But weren't you the one telling me that some of the Pastelmat colored papers look a little bit different, or have different tooth, rather? Let's see here. I'm going to put some of this up above here. Someone was telling me that. That makes a lot of sense, that there would be differences in in some of the colored papers. There we go. And I can't help myself. I want to get this part filled in up here. Oh, hey, Jennifer. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer. Yes, it's from my own photo. And I took a lot of references. And I ended up deciding on this one. I guess mostly because, you know, I don't think the model probably would. She may not prefer this particular portrait pose, but I really like it. For a drawing, I think it will work. Because I like the dominant position of the eyes and the lighting. I like the lighting a lot. So that's part of the reason why I chose that. Hey, Peggy, how's it going? Oh, yeah, thanks, Brenda. So the terracotta had more tooth, huh? And the brown. Well, I haven't tried those yet, so I don't think no, I didn't, because I tried the dark gray one. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but and that one was pretty nice. It was just mostly testing some swatches of colors on there. Okay, that upper filtrum is going to be sort of a challenge, and that's good enough for right now on it. It's going to be something I'll have to concentrate a little bit more on, because I can tell by the lighting on this that if I don't get that right, it's going to look like it's off center. You know how that happens sometimes. So you have to be careful with the filtrum and the way that it looks. If you depict it where it's too dark in one area, then yeah, it'll start looking like that you thought the mouth was over to the left or over to the right, that kind of thing. Okay. Let's see. There's something I'm not liking about that, but I guess it's okay for now. We need a little more depth in the lips over on that side. I liked this Mars Violet so much. I don't know how many of you all have been using the light fast pencils, but you can tell I really loved this Mars Violet a lot. I loved on it a little bit too much. Kind of wore it down to nothing. But there's some other colors that are very close to that color, though. Sienna is kind of close, but Venetian Red is actually really close. So I thought I would use that right in here. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. Let me see. I need a darker red, though. Again, I guess I'll go back to that cherry red. Right in there. Yeah, I think I am going to have to use a much darker color right in there. Probably like a blue or something like that. Dark indigo. We'll try that. See what happens. It's a cool thing about Pastelmat, though. If you feel like you mess up and something is not quite the right color, you can always go back and shift the color a little bit, which makes it nice. Okay. I don't want a lot of this, just a little bit. Over here, it's a little more muddy. On the right side, it's a little cleaner. There we go. I think that'll do it for now. Let's see. What did I get rid of? Flesh pink, maybe? Flesh pink doesn't even look like pink. It's a good color, but it doesn't look like pink. Okay. I can go right in here and shift that color just a little bit, make it look like there's a little bit of a highlight right in there, which is what I want. And I'm also going to be bringing that up in here in the filtrum just a little bit as well. And then right here, it's going to be a large highlight right in here. And then this can also go all over here, except I also want like maybe that wheat color up here above the mouth, above the upper lip. Mm, yeah, one of the cool things about Pastelmat, I'm just now seeing something here, is that with your colors, your subsequent layers underneath, when you put layers on top, you can spread out that color that you already put down. And that makes it kind of nice. So it's kind of like brushing the colors under on top. You're brushing those colors underneath that you've already laid down, which is kind of a good thing. There we go. But it's also something you have to remember that it will do that. Okay. There's a line up here that's bothering me. A couple of lines that I've got up there that I don't like. I can get rid of them now, or I can wait and just let them kind of bother me for a while. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Um, Sergiu man. I don't know if I'm going to try pronouncing that, but you're watching on YouTube, and thanks for the comment. Appreciate it. Um, here we go. Brenda, most of the time I'm not putting, thanks for the question there on Facebook. Most of the time I'm not putting a background on portraits, um, only because I want the portrait itself to be very compelling, and I don't want there to be any confusion on where the attention should be and what the subject um, matter is and what you're portraying. I'm not opposed to backgrounds, but I've seen them done poorly so often that it nearly makes me not want to do a background most of the time. Um, Especially when I see a background that's competing with the foreground, because the tonal value is the same. Something like that, or there's a larger contrast in the background than there is in the portrait itself, or in the foreground of whatever someone's depicting and drawing. And that just, I don't know, that just always is something that I want to avoid, and so I'm real cautious. I guess I'll say it that way about putting a background in. I don't want it to be something that's dominant. I'm going to go ahead and add some of this brighter red, some of these areas that I'm going to make red eventually anyway. Sergiu. Okay, thanks for the pronunciation there. Awesome. Thanks, Sergiu, man. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. I'll deal with those red areas on the nose later. I did want to kind of establish them a little bit, get them up there. Let's see, we'll go with oyster. I may have to use this color, I think it's called strawberry, in the Derwent Light Fast pencil line, because I'm not getting as bright as I want in my red, and so I might have to do that. And that may be something that I wait on and do it after I've established more of the value in all the shadowed areas over on the right side of the face, because I have time. I don't want to try to bring something like the lips or the nose or even the eyes to completion this early on in the process. There's no reason for that. So Brenda's asking what kind of lighting I'm using over on Facebook, and I am using it's this clamp lamp that has 3 settings on it. But then in addition to that, I've also got some studio lighting that is temperature controlled. And what I mean by that is on the Kelvin scale, the temperature of, either daylight or, going from a blue to a red. In other words, I can't remember how they've classified it, but it is. I'd have to look at it now, but it is on that temperature scale that you associate with the Kelvin temperature scale. I hope that makes sense. Okay. There, I put a little white in there. That's probably too early on to do that, but it was just kind of there, and that was kind of bothering me. And now I'm really happy that I have a big value difference right in here. There we go. Okay, so now I can see things just a little bit clearer, even if I need to shift that later on. At least right now, I've got a difference. Okay, so I'm going to pull out this dusky pink. It's a lot darker. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. Laura is on Facebook. So I'm going to pull out this dusky pink and place it over here in this darker area on the left side here. And put a little bit up here. That's one of the things that I try to do is if I'm using one color in one spot, then I also, if at all possible, I want to try to use that same color in a lot of different places in the portrait. And that goes for anything that I'm drawing, because I want there to be continuity. So I want, the palette to make sense, and I don't want things to look like they're out of balance because the colors are just so different from everywhere else in the drawing. see. I am going to use this dusky pink up here on the nostril just a little bit. Looks like it needs sharpened though. Okay. I hope that didn't sound real negative though when I was talking about backgrounds. I didn't mean for it to be negative. Just my opinion that I will typically try to make sure that if I do choose to add a background, that it makes sense, and that I'm not adding a background just because I'm following a strict process with the reference, and I'm looking at the reference and I'm thinking, well, it has a background, I'm going to add that. I want to look at it and change it if necessary. I mean, for example, like, let me see if I can pull this down. This background on this reference, it's got this greenish color right here, but over here, it's the reflection of a window, and I don't think it's going to add much to make this lighter over here. In fact, when I went with my background there, I made this a little bit darker on mine in this top corner, and I'm actually probably going to make it even darker than what it is, and make it very dark, and I may even shift that color a little bit more. But get this reference in the spot I had it. There we go. Okay. I really like the clean look of a portrait without a background, though, as well. I think that makes it to where the viewer is drawn towards the subject itself and is looking directly at the portrait. Okay. Now I can add a little bit of this pink color right there to that edge. Okay, I need to get back down here to the lips. And when I add more of this lighter color, I think it will give those lips a little more context. Yeah, that's so much better. So I want, with the bottom lip, if at all possible, you want to employ that, or I always do. I want to try to employ that lost and found edge, uh, where I'm really banking on the shading, on the shadow. I want the shadow to be something that's accentuated and not. I don't want a line there that I've represented by some pencil strokes. I want it to be something that blends together and nearly looks like that there's no start and stop for the skin that's a different type of texture around the lips and where the bottom of the bottom lip begins. I hope that makes sense. Okay, this needs to be a little more smooth. This Pastelmat is just so forgiving. You can use some of the worst technique ever in your drawing strokes, and it will just say to you, "That's okay. I forgive you. I'm going to smooth this out anyway." I mean, literally just says that to me. Like, "Oh, thank you." Okay. Here we go. I can extend this. Awesome, Maria. Good to see you here. Can't wait to see your next portrait, too. Maria is on Facebook here. Okay, see that is a little bit dark. It's a little bit too dark. And by a little, I mean a lot. That's a lot too dark. So I can push that a little bit more over here. And one thing I did notice with Pastelmat, where this differs from like UArt sanded paper, it's forgiving, but there is a point where it's not going to allow you to just go in the other direction without using some other things to be able to accomplish that. And I did that right here. I kind of messed up a little bit. So right up here, this area, and I hardly can't leave this alone now when I'm coming back to it, but this area has that little sweeping curve that comes back in this direction, and I went a little dark under here, and so I was correcting that, and I'm just testing this out. So I decided to correct it with the pencil hues. So I went with a lighter color, and I did multiple layers upon layers, and I cannot get rid. Hopefully you can see this. There, I'll zoom in just a little bit here. Hopefully it'll grab the focus here in a second. Sometimes it takes this camera just a minute to grab the focus. And it's not going to, so I'm going to zoom back out just a little. But it never quite got over that. It left this darker area right in there. So I am going to, I will get rid of it. I'm not sure how yet, but I will make that look a little bit better. But for now, that's what it did to me. So, okay, so Sergio is asking if I can compare. Oh, okay. So you're asking, with the texture of the Pastelmat, what would you compare it to? And I see your addendum to that question, saying, what would you compare it to with the feel of the Pastelmat? I mean, I do compare it to sanded paper. It's similar, but there are enough dissimilarities between those. So I'm not sure that that I would say, I can't say okay, this is exactly like Pastelmat, but it's similar enough. I can't decide if I like Pastelmat better than sanded paper, and I don't know that I could make it that much of a distinction right now to say that it's going to replace sanded paper, that the Pastelmat will. I don't think that it will, only because I think it'll be something that that I will use for certain projects, and then I'll use sanded paper for other projects. I think that's probably what we'll do. Hey, my good friend David Thompson is on here on Facebook. Thanks, David. Appreciate that. Thanks for that comment. Okay, let's see here. I've got to get a darker color over on that side. I think I'll use this sandstone. This side of the bottom of the lip, and move that down over here. There we go. Now you're looking at that and you may be thinking, well, that's a little bit too yellow for that area. And it might be a little bit too yellow. It's not bad though. And I can always shift that just a little bit later on. I didn't use a lot of pressure when I put that down. I wanted to fill in that area just a little bit with something a little bit darker. And so I can move that in a different direction with just some color shifts when I come back in there. So I've got plenty of time to do that. And by that, I just mean that there's enough tooth left on the paper, and I didn't burnish. So I can still press hard later on, and move that in a different direction. Okay, now let me just look at this. This needs to be brighter over here, and this should be a little bit darker, but I'm not going to try to do that right now because I don't have enough of the skin tone everywhere else to make an accurate interpretation on the values and what they really should look like at this point. So I'm just storing that in the back of my head and thinking that maybe that's going to be the case a little bit later on. That I'll have to change that a little bit, but I don't want to change it right now and be wrong about that. Find out I'm wrong later on. We'll move some of this up just a little bit. There we go. The reference shows more of a yellowish color in the highlights. Could be just the way that I edited my photo when I was preparing it as a reference. And I don't really like for skin tone to have a whole lot of yellow in it. I don't think that that's the best color for a skin tone. And unless, of course, the skin tone actually is, in reality, more yellowish, then obviously you're going to do that. But otherwise, it's usually just an editing problem with the reference, or something was overexposed when you took the reference, things like that. So I'm always trying to be careful about that. And when we're looking around in real life, we're not looking at people and seeing, blown out, overexposed areas on their skin. But when we're looking at photo references, that's often what what happens. Maria, that's a generous statement right there. Um, Maria just said, "I like how it looks like a painting of the masters. Beautiful. Thank you, but I don't think I really deserve that comment, but I appreciate it. One day, maybe. Okay. But I do like. I think you're talking more about the pose, and I do like this kind of pose where the lighting really makes it a compelling subject, and I think that's the best thing going on right now for this particular reference. I think this portrait. When I started looking at the shots, when I put them on my computer, and I started looking at what I had, there were some references that I thought in my mind I was going to go with, and then I came across this one, and I don't remember how many I shot, but I had maybe 10 of this particular pose, and they were all out of focus except for like 2 or 3. It's like, are you kidding me? Sometimes I do that. I don't get the focus right, and so anyway, I was glad I had 2 or 3 though that were in focus. So I just went with that. I thought, okay, that's the one we're going with. The shot that, the pose and angle and everything that I really thought I was going to go with, I ended up not really liking that much. And that's the reason why I always talk about if you're going to shoot reference photos, that you want to shoot tons of reference photos, because you may not like what you end up with. And the ones you think you're going to like sometimes turn out to be the ones you don't like. Oh, I just realized I was drawing outside of the frame. Sorry about that. There, I'll move it back so we can see what we're doing. It might be better. Okay. Yeah, this needs to be more red. So I'm going to use Scarlet right in here. And unfortunately, with these light fast pencils, the red pencils in the light fast line, you've got to blend them together to create your own pink. There's just not a good pink for you, which is fine. I'm not really complaining about that. It's fine. Okay. I want to use that Venetian red just a little bit more up in here, though. Right in here. That area to show a little more depth, a little more dimension right in there. Because that lip is very recessed right there at the crease, and then it's moving outward from there. And I'm only going to show that by showing a dark area that slowly fades into a lighter area. Okay, and then I've got to make sure I get this little backlit area inside the shadow. I'm considering this as being in the shadow over here. And there we go. Okay. We're getting closer, but I don't think I want to really push any of these colors any more right now than what I have. Just because of it being too early on in the drawing process to be able to know what those colors are actually going to be, what they end up actually being. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. And if anybody has any questions at all, you can ask those before I stop the live stream. Otherwise, thanks very much for joining. I really appreciate it. And this was a lot of fun. So I will go ahead and stop the live stream, and we'll probably be back, and we'll be developing that left side of the face, the subject's right side, and that will be fun too, I'm sure. So thanks for joining. Talk to you soon.